That the fire that erupted at its Majuba power station between Volksrust and Amersfoort in Mpumalanga will not affect the national grid. The power utility says the fire started in the power station's incline conveyor belt system from the rail offloading facility yesterday afternoon. It has since been extinguished. But for more on this, we are now joined on the line by independent energy analyst Mr. Ted Blom. A very good morning to you, Mr. Blom. We thank you very much for your time. Essentially, Eskom says that this fire will not be affecting the national grid, but are we likely to see the return of load shedding on this end?
Good morning. Yes, look, unfortunately, the prospects of load shedding are going to remain with us for at least 5 years after Eskom signs its next batch of long-term coal supply agreements. And the reason I say that is, at the moment, Eskom is buying coal from every Tom, Dick and Harry, and there are no quality control management arrangements in place. So whoever sells the coal delivers it somewhere in the coal stockyard, and then it's from there it goes straight into the boilers. There's no control to see that it's the right specification, that there aren't too many fines, and that there aren't any intrusions or rocks in the coal. And Eskom hasn't got control of what goes into the pantry. And you can't run it like that, because it's like putting, stopping next to every spaza shop and filling in whatever fuel you've got into your car. Your car is going to end up not driving so well, and that's exactly where Eskom is at the moment. So the prospects of load shedding, more severe, more erratic for the next 5 years at least.
Is this incident also likely to impact Eskom's coal delivery?
Look, Majuba generates 3,600 megawatts, if I remember correctly. It's got 6 units of about 600 megawatts each. The coal feed is critical to the running of the boilers. So to the extent that conveyor was out of action because of the fire, it certainly is going to put a lot of stress and strain on the logistics of moving the coal from the coal field into the power station, which is about a kilometer in distance. So you're going to have a lot of activity. Again, it raises the risk profile of that power station, because if something goes wrong, for instance, if the drivers of the trucks which are now using to convey the coal, if there's an accident of any sort, the whole process, like in a road accident, will come to a halt, and until investigations are held. So I don't want to preempt any disasters at Majuba. I wish them all the best. And I think it's maybe time to also thank Eskom people, the ones who are working, for trying their best to keep the lights on.
Now, does this possibly still play to sabotage at Eskom that President Cyril Ramaphosa alluded to earlier this month?
Okay, so that allegation of sabotage at Tutuka, I'm on record as saying the numbers don't stack up, because the Tutuka units are 609 megawatts each, and there's 6 units there as well. And the President said in his statement that 2 units were down because of so-called sabotage. Now that gives you around about 1,200 megawatts, in fact 1,218 to be exact. The President in his statement said no, that there was actually 2,000 megawatts lost because of that sabotage incident. So the problem is, if you want to, either he's misinformed, which I truly believe is the case, or if somebody's lying, at least do your homework and get the numbers right and lie about the right numbers. It's amateurish to be caught out in such a low level. So I don't believe that sabotage. I think it's probably a neglect by whoever was last working on those boilers. They probably forgot to turn back the gas, the oxygen cooling system, which would have kept the signaling equipment in place, from what I understand. But I don't think that's sabotage. As far as Majuba is concerned, however, I would not be surprised if a case of sabotage is found to be in existence.
Now, the President recently called for the new Eskom CEO to, as well as the board, to not be taking leave, all of the executives and the managing directors of Eskom, to make sure that they are on the ground should anything happen over the festive season. Do you think this is enough to mitigate the current crisis, energy crisis that South Africa is facing?
To be frank, and I hate to do this, but they did this exactly a year ago. You recall Minister Pravan going down and saying he's cancelled all the guys' leave. They're going to be working 24/7. Well, the fact of the matter is, that's just another gimmick as far as I'm concerned, because the people that are at the face are tasked with sorting out the problems. And willy-nilly cancelling head office or other people's leave will make no impact. In fact, last year when they tried to send the people to the power again because half the staff didn't even know where the power stations were. The head office staff, the power stations operate independent of the head office by and large. So putting more hands in isn't going to necessarily solve the problem. It just muddies the problem. You've got the people who are responsible and are capable of fixing up the system. The fact is they need to be given the space to fix up the system. Eskom hasn't got the money to get enough systems on board to give them space to do proper refurbishment. And that's the problem. They're doing patch jobs. The patch jobs are lasting for a few days and then they're breaking down again. What you need is injection of a new 5 gigawatts of supply into the grid by means of power barges. Give everybody a break so that they can take the units down, fix them properly and bring them back to service. If they don't do that, we will continue having this nightmare of load shedding.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Independent energy analyst Mr. Ted Blom just taking us through the possible impacts of that fire that took place at one of the Eskom power stations, in fact the Majuba power station between Volksrust and Amersfoort in Mpumalanga. At this point in time, no effects of load shedding have been announced. We will continue to give you more updates on that.